Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Y'all already know what it is. Welcome back, everyone, to the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. What's goody, everybody doing out there? We made it back here for another week of Talk Pro Wrestling. Good morning, good night, good afternoon to all my listeners all across the world, wherever you may be at. Mexico, Germany, the States, man. All over the States, man. For real. It's going to be an exciting one. Appreciate everyone joining. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Like, leave a comment, and do all that great stuff. And don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. But you guys, like I said, man, it's time to talk some pro wrestling. It's not 7:30, it's 11:30. It's time for to get into the podcast, man. Got a great guest joining me this week, you guys, man. Veteran referee that's been in the wrestling industry for some time, man. For real, we're gonna be chopping it up with him. Referee Vinnie Lax is going to be joining me this week, as you can see here on a Talk Pro Wrestling this week. For real, we're gonna chop it up about everything he got going on and everything, man. For real, it's gonna be fun. Before we do, shout out my guest who was on last week, Alex Kane, MLW Openweight Champion. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Speaking of the show, we're gonna get into it. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Vinny, what's going on, my guy?
Dre, thanks for having me, man. I love the energy.
Thank you so much.
I can only hope to keep up. That's the one thing as a referee. Sometimes I don't have much personality to me. I have to admit that. That's one of the reasons I think I'm a good referee, though. I fade into the background. You know what I mean?
Hey, doing a pretty good job at it, man. Doing a pretty good job, man.
I like to think so.
Hey, that's
thanks
what's
for
up,
having me on, man. These are always fun. I tell people all the time, like referees, our voices don't get heard that often. So when I'm able to come on, tell my story, talk a little about refereeing, about that side of the wrestling business, it's always interesting. So so thanks for having me on. I appreciate looking out for the zebras.
Yeah, no problem, man. That's what I always try to do here on Talk Pro Wrestling. Is definitely, because especially over the last couple of years, especially when the pandemic really hit, a lot of guys were, out of work and wasn't wrestling or doing much stuff. So
I was in that boat.
Yeah, and I would have liked to, shine light on, different independent, because I always say everybody got a story, where they come from and stuff like that. So, and I'm a big fan of wrestling. So this side on the wrestling podcast, I always definitely like to reach out to some awesome people. But how life treating you?
Life's treating me pretty well, man. Like I was telling you before we came on, like today's my first day of summer vacation. My day job is an athletic trainer for a high school, so I'm off until August, and I'm gonna enjoy some time off.
Okay. How long you been? You said an athletic director?
Athletic trainer.
Athletic trainer.
Basically, long story. We handle all the sports medicine for the athletic team.
Okay.
Athletic trainers do.
Okay. How long you been doing that?
I've been doing that since 2003. I graduated college in 2002. Got my first job in 2003. That's actually how I got into pro wrestling. Is through my job as an athletic trainer, because I met a guy who was coaching football for the school, and he happened to be promoting shows. He was a former wrestler, and that's we kind of hooked up, and we can get to that story in a bit probably. But.
Hey, that's what's up. Hey, we can definitely get into that story, because you've been doing your thing for just about 20 years now, right?
Yeah, I started in 2004, so I'm on. This is year number 18 now.
Yeah,
in a couple years, we number 20, and I've been very lucky just to be a part of wrestling business. I always like to say, like, it feels very weird for me to say that I'm in the wrestling business, because I've never done it full time. I've done a lot on the independent level. I've gotten to work with a lot of great talents who have done it full time for a very long time, and I'm very honored to be able to be part of that. But to say I'm like in the business is always kind of weird for me. So I always like to say, like, I'm business adjacent. Like, I'm near the business. I'm around the business.
Okay.
But to call myself in the business, because I've never done it full time, it's never been my full time bill paying gig. It does seem a little weird, but it is what it is.
Okay. Well, how's it been going for you though?
Oh, it's been going great. Like I said, 18 years in wrestling. I've been spending, I think, almost 7 years now, I think, with Northeast Wrestling, who's, if you don't know, is one of the top promotions in the Northeast United States. We bring in a lot of big names. I've gotten a lot of great opportunities. Work with guys like, the Hardy Boys, John Morrison, Enzo, Cass, Ryback, you name it. Like Cody Rhodes, uh, he was our champion for a couple years, for about a year there, when he was
Okay.
left indie in between, WWE and starting up AEW. So
Okay.
yeah, I've just been super lucky to be able to be in the ring with a lot of talented people, and
Okay.
hopefully take away things every time I step into the ring. So
Okay, cool, cool, cool. You're a big fan of wrestling, and I could tell, right? Because I checked the Twitch out, and I see you be playing WWF No Mercy.
I have
Legend.
been playing No Mercy. I started this morning, or a couple weeks ago. I was playing this morning though.
Yeah.
Classic WWF game.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
I'm obviously I'm more of a fan of that era. That's when I
Yeah.
became a fan.
Mm-hmm.
My fan journey, without getting too much detail, I was a big fan of the Hulkamania era. That's when I grew up with wrestling. When I was first introduced to it, it was right
Okay.
around like the Hulkamania era, probably like around like WrestleMania 4 or 5. I think the first big angle I remember was Savage and Hogan, the big fight over when the Mega Powers exploded. So that
Okay.
was my first introduction to like wrestling around there. I remember like renting VHS tapes of like WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 3, and going back to like WrestleMania 1 and 2. I think I watched them in reverse order when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Coming from
yes,
coming
so
from that time, with Hulk Hogan and all those legendary guys at that point in the '80s, and really where wrestling started to pop. What was your thoughts on the transition?
from to the 90s.
Yeah, yeah, into
Well,
the Attitude Era.
in the mid '90s, the new generation era happened first, and that's when I kind of fell off. It was also probably my age too, right? You start becoming a
Okay.
teenager, you get into other
Mm,
things, you start doing you're busy, doing things other than watching wrestling. I
yeah.
kind of stuck. I kind of watched here and there a little bit, but I wasn't obviously into it. And
Yeah.
then obviously the Attitude Era exploded, and that was when I was in college. And I remember my freshman year of college watching it. Watching somebody had taped the episode of Raw where Mankind was in the hospital, or Vince was in the hospital. Mankind came to visit him, and the whole Sacco thing. And then someone had that on VHS, and I watched that, and I was like, "Oh man, this is really cool. Like this is awesome again." So, and that's when I really got into wrestling. The internet scene was starting to blow up a little bit. Like there were a lot of message boards out there. So, I hate the term smart bar, but I was kind of one back in before I started doing this myself. I have to admit,
Yeah.
I was probably one of those guys on the internet on the message boards giving my opinion, even though I probably didn't know. I definitely
Hey,
didn't know half of what I needed to know.
hey, that's what's up. That's what's
But
up.
it
Hey,
was fun. That was a great time to be a fan. The Attitude
hey,
Era is just
it's great time, man. Great time. Well, take us through this journey of how everything began for you as a ref. I know you were saying things kind of like started for you when you were as a
athletic
athletic.
trainer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got my first job working at a high school, the school that I'm still at right now. And one of the football coaches at the time, his name was Jeff Leibolt. He wrestled as JL Storm, um, around the Northeast area. If you're an older school wrestling fan, you might recognize the name. He did have some enhancement talent matches with the WWF when they were in the area and stuff like that. But at the time, he was promoting a wrestling company called Tri-State Wrestling up in Vermont. Rutland, Vermont is where they usually based a lot of their shows out of. Um, and I met him, and we got to talk about wrestling. He told me, how he used to wrestle and he's running the promotion, blah blah blah. He's like, "Oh, you want to come up to a show?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, I always wanted to do something. I knew, like, being 5'8", not the most athletic person in the world. I played sports, but was never like excelled at it. I
Mhm.
definitely not a big weightlifter. Like, I do work out, but it's never been like heavy bodybuilding type style. Like I'm never trying to get big or anything. It's just more like kind of like leaning out and staying healthy type deal. So I knew I was never going to be like make a convincing wrestler.
Okay.
But I knew like I could have a role, and I think refereeing, I thought was like that's something that is, I thought it was easy. It's
Mhm.
obviously not as easy as I know it is now. So I
Yeah.
asked him, I was like, "Hey, do you think I could referee?" And him being a good promoter, because there are a lot of promoters out there that will just throw referees into the fire, which
Mhm.
is not the right way to do it. But him being smart about the business and being a good promoter, he said, "Well, there's a wrestling school down in Newburgh, New York, which is about 45 minutes away from where I am." Um, he's like, it was run by Tony DeVito from ECW, and he brought me. He's like, I'm going to take you to the school. You can, you can practice refereeing there. You can learn how to take a bump. You can learn how to hit the ropes. You can, take. I take a lot of the moves. I wasn't very good at it. I'm not going to lie,
Hmm.
but I was good enough. I got my experience enough up to to actually referee in the ring in front of a live crowd,
Okay.
and I got to do that. And like I said, it was like the spring of 2004. I wish I could remember the right date. I really wish, going back, I wrote down a lot of the like things like that I've done. Like I know a lot of people to have a log, and they'll write down like every match they had and like what every event they've had, and they'll keep notebooks of it. And I never
Yeah.
really thought I'd be doing this for this long, to be honest with you. I thought it
Yeah.
was something that I had a friend who was in the business. I would help him out, maybe do a couple shows, but I go there, do the show, and a buddy of mine I went to college with, his wrestling name's Osiris. He wrestles like around the like Massachusetts area mostly. He surprised me. I didn't know he was coming, but I told him, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna referee a show. So he came to the show, and he brought along a friend of his, this little kid, Zach the ref. He was a kid at the time. He was, but he's been refing a little bit in like the New England area, and he was like, how long you been refing? And I was like, that was my first show. He's like, oh my god. He's like, let me talk to some guys. I can get you some work. And so like, he actually really helped me out a lot, even though at the time he was literally like, I think like 14, 15 years old, refereeing
Yeah.
professional wrestling. But he really did help me out, like get my foot in the door in a
Yeah.
bunch of places in around the New England area. And then like anyone will tell you, like that's how you just branch out. Like that's how your career just like you go here, and then someone else meets you and goes, oh, do you want to work here? And you go, okay, work there, work. And like your career just kind of like branches out into like a path that ended up at where I always wanted to be, and that's Northeast Wrestling. I watched
Hey.
Northeast Wrestling when I was in college as a wrestling fan. Like that was the first like independent like experience that independent wrestling experience that I got.
Mm.
So that was always like the big company in the Northeast, and I was like, I'd love to work for them someday. Um,
Okay.
and like I said, the paths branched out. Tony DeVito got me in this company called Defiant Pro Wrestling, run by Jason Knight and Mike Milano.
Mm.
That moved me into a company called Connecticut Wrestling Entertainment that was run by and booked by Joey Bricko, who was running in the Bethany Town Hall, which is now known as the Northeast Wrestling Arena, because after he shut down his promotion, Northeast Wrestling kind of came in there. And I have to give a shout out to Brian Anthony, Mr. Northeast Wrestling, because he was one of the guys who really pushed for me to get hired at Northeast Wrestling by Michael Lombardi. So
Okay.
yeah, he was one of the guys that really got me in my foot in the door with them. And that's, like I said, was really like where I wanted to be at some point in my career.
Okay.
And I made it. And my other goal was to referee at the Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's where I first saw my first wrestling show, and I got a chance to do that through Northeast Wrestling. So like I'm like like I said, I've never done this full time. I've never worked for the big companies. I've never been on TV, but I'm very blessed to be where I am in wrestling. It's been a crazy trip.
Hey.
I love it.
Hey, you gotta be blessed, man. You done a lot. You definitely done a lot. You spoke on about being a wrestler. You said you really didn't, have it all shaped out to be though. Did you wanted to be a wrestler?
Never wanted to be a wrestler.
Never wanted to be a wrestler.
If any character I would be, it would be probably more of a manager.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't like, I don't like getting hurt. I'll be honest with you. That's especially because I have, the medical background. I know the things that can happen to me, and I'm like, you know
Okay.
what? I'm good. I'm good taking one bump to show, maybe like
Okay. Okay.
not a whole match. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
I can dig that. I can dig that. Well, I had a couple of guys on wrestlers, and I always ask them kind of like the journey of becoming a wrestler and stuff like that, and how training goes. Well, how is it specifically for referees and so you also
Well, I'll
mentioned.
always tell every
Mhm,
referee to train as a
mhm.
wrestler, and I did kind of train as a wrestler. I learned how
Okay.
to lock up. I learned how to chain. I don't think I could do it anymore, but I
Mm.
learned how to do a little chain wrestling. I learned how to give some moves. I was never going to be, you know, giving Germans out there in practice because I didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Mhm.
But I've given vertical suplexes. I've given body slams. I've hip tosses. Those kind of deals.
Okay.
I know how to throw a punch. I know how to throw kicks. Like I could do that. Like I said, I can lock up and chain a little bit. Um, but mainly it was just focusing on, you know, ring positioning, in kind of relation to where the wrestlers are, how to react to things. Um, More importantly, like, how to communicate in the ring is something that is very important. And you learn that in school, but you also definitely learn that when you're in the ring, kind of on the fly, like how to, people don't really understand, like, who have never wrestled don't really understand how much communication needs to happen in the ring at all times.
Okay.
So,
How much communication?
and that part, kind of falls on the referee sometimes, because
Mhm.
if your opponents are far apart, and somebody wants to relay a message, not only do you have to do that, you have to do it inconspicuously so it's not too obvious to the fans. So, like
Okay.
I said, a lot of fans don't realize how much communication and talking actually goes on in that ring. I know, if you watch Botchamania, they got the "you talk too much" segment, and so
Yeah.
you know what happens. But
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much it happens, and that's part of being a skilled referee. Is, like I said, is not only to be able to pass on the messages, but to do it so you're not giving it away. Like, oh, he just told him something. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay. And you just said, I was just about to say, how much goes into it, because I know you got to keep it, very discreet and stuff like that. And so,
Yeah, so it comes with, like, you'll always have a lot of movement to you, right?
hmm,
Not in a distracting way, but if you're always checking on guys and you're always talking to them about things, like giving them warnings and whatnot, like, you can slip in messages if you're always moving around. So little things like that you wouldn't really think of, but because you don't think of it, it's a good thing, because
okay,
like I said, it keeps that illusion, because wrestling is all about it's a magic show, right? It's a magic show. It's entertainment.
hmm,
It's a choreographed combat, like, sport. So there's a lot to it, and being able to everyone be on the same page is very important
yeah,
to the overall product, if you will, right?
okay, yeah. How long did it take for you to get into your groove? You also talk about people get thrown under the bus or so.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think wrestling, and I think a lot of wrestlers go through this too. There's like a weird curve where you're like, you start off and you're like, oh, I think I know what wrestling is, and then you
Okay.
realize, no, you don't know anything about wrestling. You've watched it as a fan, you have no idea what's going on in the ring, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I know I know what's going on again, right? After maybe a couple of years, depending on how busy you are and stuff. Yeah, and then you get to another point and you realize, like, you don't know as much as you think you know. And then and once you get to the point where you're like, I'm always learning, even guys I work with, who've been doing this, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. I think they take every opportunity to continue to learn. Like, you're never perfect, right? So unless you're Kurt Hennig.
Yeah,
That was a good. Anyway,
yeah,
I thought that was a good joke. Anyway,
it was.
but you know what I mean. Like, you're always trying to get better, and even me doing, like I said, doing this 18 years, I go into every match trying to get better. All right, and trying to pick something up where I can learn or I can build on it.
Mm. Have you had the chance to work with some of these great guys that you've been in the business with? Who has been some of the great guys or women that you had the
Oh
chance
God,
to
like I
work with?
said, guys like Cody Rhodes, Mickey James. You know who I learned a lot from? I did two. I refereed two of his matches when he was in Northeast Wrestling. Was Joey Mercury.
Mm.
Guy has a great mind for wrestling business. Has a great mind for putting matches together, telling a story. Because that's what, and you hear that all the time. That's what wrestling is. It's telling a story.
Hmm.
But to be able to tell, like, a really good story is a lot harder than people give it credit for. And he's one of the best that I've ever worked with at doing that. Cody Rhodes too is a guy that just, like, comes into every match with, he always wants new ideas, always wants to push the envelope, always has something that he wants to try. You know what I mean? Very, very passionate. Guys like Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, the Young Bucks. That was actually, like, one of my first big main events that I'd done for Northeast Wrestling. Was the first time the Hardys and the Young Bucks wrestled.
Okay.
Guys like Rey Mysterio, always fun to work with. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, those
Mm.
those are the name drops for the big names. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But there's guys too that like I love working with at Northeast Wrestling, and I've been working with for a long time in the Northeast area. Guys like Brian Anthony I mentioned before. I love working with him. Every time I get a chance, we get a chance to have a match together. It's always a lot of fun. So yeah, so
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah,
It sounds very satisfying though.
I
What's
have
been?
such a good time.
I, I,
And
I,
sometimes when I'm trying to think of names, like your name blanks, and then but I also want to
it's
mention guys like JT Dunn. So always good to work with.
yeah,
Even a guy like I've known Chris Battle now for almost probably 12, 13 years. Always fun,
yeah.
always a good time working with a guy like when you know him real well like that. Chris is a great wrestler. I
Okay.
actually got to referee him and Brian Danielson once for
Mm.
Connecticut Wrestling Entertainment.
Oh
That
man.
was that was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, yeah. What's been the most satisfying part about all of this though for you?
Oh, that's a great call. I mean, it's such a cliche thing to say. I feel like,
Mm.
but the fans, like I love being out there, and like I know it's not particularly me getting the reaction, but it's just being a part of like getting that reaction when there's like especially like I think any referee will tell you one of the best feelings for a referee is when there's like a really good false finish and
Mm.
everyone in the building thinks that's the end of the match and it's not. and you pull that arm and you give them the 2 and the crowd goes crazy. I know it's it's the wrestlers responsible for getting to that point, but I feel like a really good referee can just put the cherry on top of that sundae. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to give our Northeast Wrestling heavyweight champion right now, Dan Moff, who's been wrestling forever. I've been lucky enough to work with him now on the past couple shows,
Okay.
going on almost probably like 6 months now. I think I've done a lot of his matches, and he's just so much fun to work with. He's just one of those guys who's just like he's there for it. He's one of those another guys who's just like always wants to push the envelope, always wants, no matter what it is, always wants to give the crowd like the best show like that he can. And like I have a great team. We had a really good match. The month previous, what he wrestled Flip Gordon was really good, and then just this past weekend he wrestled Vincent from Impact.
Okay.
That match was incredible. I've been working with Vinnie now for a long time.
Yeah.
Whenever he's in the area, because he's a Massachusetts guy, or actually he's from Rhode Island, but he came up in the Northeast New England area, so
Okay.
I've known him for a while now too.
Okay. What's some best advice that you have taken from the wrestling business? Obviously, you mentioned Joey Mercury and stuff like that. But what's some of the best advice, and also advice for up and coming guys or girls who who's looking to get into the business, perhaps to become a referee or just a wrestler?
Yeah. I mean, the most basic advice I can give you is definitely go get trained by someone reputable.
Yeah. And someone who's not gonna steal your money, right?
So yeah, make sure do your research. Do your research. If you talk to people, they'll be honest with you. They'll tell you who the best schools around you are and where to go. That's pretty obvious. One good piece of advice I got as a referee. This was actually from Tommy Dreamer. He said before a match, like that's your time, right? When the introductions are going on, like especially back then, like we don't really check the wrestlers anymore. But like if there's like a when they're doing their entrances, right? And the heel usually comes out first, and the heels, gets some heat, and the baby face comes out. And if the heel wants to try and like attack the baby face, like that's your job to be like, no, like you're the authority in that, So that's kind of the referee's time to get their story as the authority in the ring over. Is a good time to do that. That's the thing too. Always be authoritative in that ring. I think a lot of referees when they're starting out are a little bit hesitant to like get in the wrestler's way. There's times for it, and that comes with experience and learning, but you are like in charge in there, right? Kayfabe wise.
Yeah.
You are in charge of the match. Like if you watch a boxing match or you watch MMA, like the wrestlers have to listen to you or they will not win the match. And the whole idea about wrestling, and people forget this all the time, the whole idea about wrestling is to win the matches. You know, the the top layer is like entertain the crowd, but what's underneath it is like what's what the kayfabe is, which is even a weird term nowadays. I feel like because
Yeah.
everyone's pretty smart to the business now. It's
Yeah.
2022. You know,
Yeah.
it's been 23 years since Exposing the Wrestling Business was on
Yeah.
NBC. Remember that show? That
Yes,
was
I
that
do.
that was a funny. I remember watching that because I wasn't in the business yet. I remember watching that. That was hilarious to me. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, because I knew that was like the most basic like smart mark. Like if you're on the internet, you knew those tricks. But you know what I mean. So that whole illusion of you being in charge of the match, you have to put that out there, right? You need to show it, or you're just not going to look. It's going to look like you're useless in there. And what's the point of being in there if you're going to be useless? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get you. I get you. Okay. What keeps you inspired?
That's a great question. You've been doing this 18 years, and again, it's so hard to explain the feeling that you have in the ring when there's a big match or any match going on. But when the crowd like responds to it, and you get that, like, even though it's not like, as a referee, they're not booing or cheering you. Sometimes they do, but that's another story.
Mhm.
But just to be part of that, like, that crowd, you really do, like, you feel energy coming off the crowd, and it's such an adrenaline rush. And I think that's why people get so addicted to being part of wrestling. I mean, you hear all the stories, especially back in the day, guys like, you know, number one, it was they had to pay the bills, but number two, it was like they couldn't stop getting that feeling they got from being inside a wrestling ring, and feeding off the crowd, that energy, and just
Yeah.
it's such a hard feeling to describe. Honestly, it's just you just feel like almost like empowered, I guess. I don't know. It's hard. Like I said, I don't really have the words for it. That's not my job.
Yeah.
That's why I referee. I'm not here to cut promos. Like,
Hey,
I'm very good at blending into the background. So
I dig it. I definitely dig it. I know it's some undescribable feeling going out there, and I think I was just talking to myself about this, man. Just going out there, and it don't even matter how many people, man. Just that adrenaline rush, and hearing the fans, cheering stuff like that. But before we move on, you guys, we're gonna move on here on the podcast. I want to hear your thoughts on it. News broke, Alfie, this past weekend. I know you don't keep up with mostly the current product of wrestling, though. But I know you heard the news where Jeff Hardy has been arrested and suspended from AEW. Um, Me personally, I think, man, like, after hearing this, because a buddy shared the minds because we do the commission talks, but he shared the news, and I was like, wow, like I thought Jeff was, getting back to a point where, he's good, but I understand that he's been dealing with this for a long time, and addiction is very, very serious, and mental health is serious, and obviously what he does for a living takes a toll on your body takes a toll on your body in general, though. But what's your thoughts on this situation with Jeff Hardy?
yeah, I mean, obviously, I've worked with Jeff a few times. I don't know him personally. I'm
Mhm,
not going to sit here and pretend that I do, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know what's going on in his life and his day to
mhm,
day life.
mhm.
I really do hope he gets the help that he needs, and I hope he's ready to accept that. From what it sounds like, things are going in the right direction. I think, sometimes it just takes, a realization, and like I said, hopefully he gets the help that he needs, and hopefully everything turns out all right for him. He's always been really good in the locker room. He's always been a lot of fun to work. I got to referee a match with him and Jushin Thunder Liger at Dodger Stadium once. That's on
Mm,
YouTube. If you want to check out that match, I recommend
I
it.
would definitely.
It was a really good match. Yeah, that's one of our free matches on YouTube. So go check that out at Northeast Wrestling on YouTube. But yeah, like I said, like I'm not gonna sit here and know what's going on
Yeah.
in that dude's life. It's not an easy life as to be a wrestler, especially for as long as he's been doing this. Um,
Hmm.
so I wish him the
I
best. I really do. I'm glad
definitely.
that nobody got seriously injured.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And I like I said, I wish him the best. I hope to see him down the road someday.
Yes, definitely wish him the best, man, for real. But you guys, well, we're gonna move on here on the podcast. Man, Vinnie Lax, man, you got some big events that you're gonna be coming up. Big events that you are gonna be referencing that coming up,
We
right?
do. We always check out the northeastwrestling.com website if you're in the Northeast area or if you like to travel. Hey, um, but this weekend, July 18th, we got a huge show at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey, and it's always one of the most entertaining shows of the year that we put on. We've been lucky enough to be partner with Six Flags, I think, for the past 3 years or so at Northeast Wrestling. Well, there was obviously the one year we couldn't do. Um, but it's always a very entertaining show. We have a huge meet and greet with a lot of stars, a lot of autograph signings going on. So definitely check that one out. We're back in the Bethany Town Hall, the Northeast Wrestling Arena. I believe that date is July 16th. That's our Heat Wave show. That's going to be a good one. And then a bunch of shows coming up, which I'm unfortunately going to miss because I'm on vacation. But just because I'm not there, don't still go because you're going to be entertained. Our big show at the Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, July 23rd, I believe, is the date on that one. That's going to be that's always a huge show when we run there. So check that out. Check out the northeastwrestling.com website. That's my main company right now. I also work for a company called Pioneer Valley Professional Wrestling. You can check those out. They have a Facebook page. So go check out their Facebook page. We run out of like the Springfield, Massachusetts area. A friend of mine, Justin Hammer Tunis, is doing a great job with that company, and it's a lot of fun to work for.
Okay, gotcha. You guys, man, go check out northeastwrestling.com. If you're in the area, man, go check out, man, for real. If you're in the area and you want to go to Six Flags to meet some great guys, I hear Mickey James.
Hey, go on some coasters, watch some wrestling.
Yes,
the wrestling event is free with admission to the park.
Yeah,
we also have some premium ringside seats available. I believe there's some still available. So check out the website.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's always a great day. You get to go on some roller coasters, get some wrestling in, and take it all in.
That sounds fun. That sounds really fun.
It's like I said, it's one of the most entertaining shows that we do. I'll tell a quick story. Brian Anthony was talking about before. We had a match. This was I think last year with Jerry Lawler, and he has this great idea. He's like, I'm gonna take Jerry Lawler's crown. Right? I'm going to knock Jerry out. I'm going to take his crown and I'm going to be like, I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to tell you to hold it on your foot, like a football, because I'm going to kick it. And so we set it up and he's like, all right, this is what I want you to do. But I hold it up. He knocks Jerry out, grabs the crown, like shoves it in my chest. Like, you hold it down. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it to Jerry's crown. No, you do it. And threatened me. So I do it. He runs up. And I pull the crown away, like Lucy pulls the football from Charlie Brown. And here comes Brian, goes to throw the kick. He flips up in the air. I'm like, no, you can't do that to Jerry the Lawler's crown. Jerry the King Lawler's crown. Jerry gets up, punches, give him the stunner, bam, 1, 2, 3. It was great. Awesome. It was very one of my favorite endings to a match I've ever done.
That's awesome, man. That's definitely fun. That's definitely awesome. You guys, man, this has been a dope show here on Talk Pro Wrestling this week. But before we wrap it up, you guys, man, we're bringing back a segment that I usually have on the main show. After last week, we're going to continue it here on Talk Pro Wrestling, you guys. It's time for the 11:30 podcast. Hot seat, you guys. All right. Vinnie Lax.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you. It's time for that hot seat. Vinny, I got 6 questions for you, and we're gonna roll with it. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. Have you ever had to call off a match?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Or reason, or whatever come to mind.
Somebody was seriously injured. Put it like that.
Okay, cool.
Seriously injured. That's happened twice. Once was extremely serious, but yeah, another time, someone took a dive through a table, and I got to him. I checked on him, and he was out. He had no response, so I called the match off, and yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
The other time, I don't like to talk about it too much, but I was involved with a match where someone actually passed away. Wow. It was very early in my career, and it almost led me to quit wrestling, but Very, very sad story. But like I said,
Okay.
I don't want to bring it down too much now.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. What's your thoughts on the industry today?
I would like to see more characters. I think they always build up like really interesting characters, only to then they disappear. I think wrestling needs to find wrestling again. I feel like there's a little while there they're thinking they want to be MMA, but a fake MMA, which they're not. They're wrestling. Bring back the cartoon era. Bring back crazy stuff, like the stuff like Bray Wyatt was doing, and like people love that, and I don't know why they don't do more of that.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree. What was your favorite match you ref or as a fan?
Oh God, favorite match as a ref. One match that always sticks out that I think people would be surprised to say was a match between John Morrison and JT Dunn. It was at a baseball stadium, I think, in Connecticut. Just everything went perfect, and it was just like one of those matches that everything clicked, and it was just a really fun match to do. I mean, I could name a bunch of matches like that one always sticks out as like one of my top favorites.
Okay,
I could go on and on. I could talk about some of the matches.
Yeah,
like, I always want to give like a shout out to like the Jushin Liger Jeff Hardy matches, because that was just like such an iconic match for me to be in the middle of those two guys. Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean?
Okay, cool. Who's your favorite person to rap with on the road?
Oh, you know what? I gotta give a shout out to referee Chris D'Antonio. We usually ride together to Northeast Wrestling shows. We've been doing a lot of road trips lately. He lives a little bit south of me, so it's kind of on the way. So we meet up, and it's always a good time riding with him. Another good car we do those trips out to Ohio once a year. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss this year, but it's like a 6-hour drive, which is for me pretty long. I'm not one of these guys that travel over the country to wrestle. So 6 hours is a pretty long trip for me.
Yeah.
But we had a great car. It was Brian Anthony, Daniel Evans, and Vito and myself in a car, and that was a very fun road trip.
Okay, cool. Sounds very fun. Who do you call to when you're having a rough day?
My wife.
Cool.
Of course. She's amazing. I gotta give a shout out to my wife Claire. She'll probably watch this. That's how awesome of a wife she is.
Hey,
she always does listen to all the podcasts and stuff that I do.
So. That's awesome. Shout out wifey.
She's
okay.
Very supportive.
Okay. What's your go-to meal after an event?
Usually McDonald's, because it's usually the only thing that's open. If when I was a little bit younger and a little bit more in the mood to like hang out after shows and stuff like that, we could go to like Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm a big Buffalo Wild Wings fan.
Okay.
Which is why gained like 20 pounds when the pandemic hit, because I was just sitting at home and a Buffalo Wild Wings opened in my town, and I was like, oh man, chicken tenders. I love the habanero, that mango habanero sauce. It's hot but perfectly. Like, I love it.
Hey, that's what's up. That's real cool. Look at Vinnie Lax, man. I appreciate you coming through here.
That was 6 already. Awesome.
The 1130 podcast, man. This was cool. Really cool.
I'm so happy to be on. Like, I love these things. Like I said, I don't get to talk that much. I'm not always the biggest personality in the room, so to be able to come on and talk and share my story. If you want to hear me talk some more, come follow the channel at referee Vinnie Lax on Twitch. All one word, spelled out referee VINNIE with a and LAX. And I've been streaming some fun video games, a lot of retro stuff, and I've been having a great time on that. I'm almost to affiliate status. That's why I'm really trying to push this hard. Someone get me over the top to that 50th follower, and
hey, we're gonna definitely try to help you do that, man. Before you go, any questions, any shout outs, anything you'd like to say?
I think I shouted out and everyone I could shout out. Obviously, if I haven't mentioned, like, Michael Lombardi, the president and promoter of Northeast Wrestling, he's always taking care of me, and I do appreciate working for that company, because it's just been a blast, and I've gotten to do a lot of cool things with it. So I appreciate that.
Okay, cool.
And everybody else, I think I shouted out. I want to shout you out, because you were amazing. This is a great experience. Like, this is fun. You do a great job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, man. For real, this was a great show. I'm always tongue tied. I'm always excited. This was great, man. Chatting with you, for real. Great stories, man, and great adventures, great journey that you've been doing, man. And,
I hope to see you at a show someday. Okay?
Yeah, definitely will.
Stop by, say hi.
Definitely got to. Vinnie Mac, I appreciate you joining me this week here on the 1130 podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Cheers.
just learned something today. Rhino, the vagina is a muscle. It has to be misogyny. You ever heard of
So,
muscle memory? You use their Kegel balls.
like
That
when you in
motherfucker
it,
up in there.
when you inside of it, they can actually squeeze on you while
Yeah,
you're inside
man.
of it, bro. That's a fucking
They
muscle
gripping.
reflection.
Yeah. Rhino, what the fuck?
8 million hands sanitized. 1 million faces protected. 400,000 rail cars disinfected. We're humming right along, keeping you safe when you ride Metro.
Yo, what up? This your boy Kenneth Stones, 88 Coffee Weaston.
This your boy DOE Good Brother Bowl.
And we are the Dirty Hills. You already know, man, you tuning in to 11:30 podcast. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Dude, that's my job. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Yeah. And you have been Dirty Hills approved.
Yo, we back here on Talk Pro Wrestling. Appreciate everyone sticking with me throughout the short commercial break, man, for real. Yo, Vinnie Lax, thank you so much for coming through here on the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling this week, man. It was a really great show. Great time chopping it up with you, my guy, on your 18, going on 20-year career in the wrestling industry, man. He said he never been on TV and everything like that, but look at it, man. Look, it's always how you look at things, man, the perspective, man. So look at you've been doing a hell of a job for yourself in the wrestling industry for the last 20 years. So that's what's dope, man. For real, you guys. The links will be down below if you want to learn more about Vinnie, man, or just go watch him play some retro games like Super Mario Brothers or WWF No Mercy on Twitch. The links will be down below. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. If you're in the Northeast area, go to a Northeast event, man. For real, Northeast Wrestling. They're going to have some great shows. Great event coming up this weekend at Six Flags, I believe, Slam Fest. It's going to be awesome. You got Eddie Kingston, Mickey James, Malachi Black, Mick Foley. A lot of great talent that's going to be in the area. So if you want to get out and about, go check it out, man. For real. This was great. Thank you once again, referee Vinnie Lax, for coming through here this week on Talk Pro Wrestling. Before we wrap it on up, man, yo, big shout out to Get It Off Your Chest podcast. My guys over there. Hey, yo, you guys keep killing it and keep going up, man, because you guys going all the way to the top, for real. So shout out to the Get It Off Your Chest podcast. If you haven't done so already, get caught up and go subscribe to the Get It Off Your Chest podcast on YouTube. Also, go check out and subscribe to Buzzing with Marlo if you haven't done so already. My guy's on break right now, so go catch up. Go check out all the dope episodes all the way leading up to the 100 episode and also leading up to the 99 episode, because Commission Talks, we was there. We was chatting it up before we went on break. We'll be back sometime in September or so. I'm going to be a dad, so in the coming weeks, actually in 2 weeks, it will be the wrap-up show here, the last show for a couple of months or so. But definitely I will be back here to talk my crap and with amazing guests each and every week here on Talk Pro Wrestling, man. And also Off the Top Roads podcast, my guy Blackheart, he returns. OTTR returns July 29th, the day before SummerSlam. So, man, to get all caught up and get ready, get at him, man. And also, Clock Street Wrestling podcast, man. All new episodes is out right now. So tap in with my guys, man. For real. Dirty Hills also, man. For real. It's going up. Yo, this has been a great show. I ain't about to keep rambling on with you guys, man. Yeah, this was fun. Also, man, prayers go out to Jeff Hardy. I hope he get all the help that he need, man, for real. And I was listening to and checking out the interview where Booker T was saying, and I know Booker T, he say a whole lot of crazy stuff nowadays, but just everything that Jeff, been putting himself through, and like Vinny said, I'm not gonna pretend like I know him or knowing him situation, but from seeing going off the top ladder, especially what was that match that him and Darby Allin had, man? I was like, boy, whew. But man, my man, just he's still able to go and still able to move to this day. And they were going to have a triple threat ladder match this past week on Dynamite, and that did not take place due to Jeff Hardy getting suspended. So, yo, man, prayers go out to Jeff and he get his help, man, for real. But yo, man, it's Friday once again. If you're tuning in to wrestling tonight, who you guys got, man? It's not even a question of who you guys got. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler. The Tribal Chief will do in Riddle, and that's just gonna be it, man, for real. But yeah, man, it's just a bunch of wrestling going down tonight. Rampage, SmackDown, independent wrestling all over the weekend, man. So you guys enjoy wrestling, get your hands on it, and like I said earlier, and like my man Vinny said, if you're in the Northeast area, go to northeastwrestling.com, pick up your tickets, and go to Slam Fest, Six Flags, ride some roller coasters, get to meet some wrestlers, man. It don't get no better than that, right? To me, it don't get no better than that. But yo, man, this has been a great show, a great Friday, you guys. Before I hit on out of here, you guys, one more time, wrapping up the podcast in 2 weeks, you guys. Yes, in 2 weeks, it will be the last episode. I'm going to be a dad, so I'm going to go off and enjoy the summer and, become a dad. And when I come back, got a great and amazing stories that I can't wait to share with the world, man. So, so definitely, well, this is going to lead into my next one. So definitely follow me on social media for everything, man, for real. But you know what time it is. Don't forget to follow the 1130 Podcast on all social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter at the 1130 Podcast, like the 1130 Podcast on Facebook. And if you haven't done so this entire episode, man, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button down below. Yes, here on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or iHeartRadio, leave a 5-star rating, share it, tell a friend about the 1130 Podcast, for real. An all new episode of the 1130 Podcast streaming this Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 Central, only on YouTube, man, for real. This was a dope, man. This was a dope show. For real, man. Dope show. Get caught up on latest episodes. If you want to wait till the break, that's cool. But yo, this was definitely dope, man. I'm about to head on out of here. Hope you guys stay blessed, man. For real, stay blessed. Keep giving the glory to the Almighty, man. For real, won't He do it? Yo, it's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wells, for my dope guest, man, Referee Vinnie Lax. Thank you for coming on the show, and I'm out.